We went out for fireworks. We were driving down the road. It seemed really weird because traffic was non-existent. We get up to the park. There's no one there. Turns out the fireworks are tomorrow night on July 4th and not tonight on July 3rd like we had originally expected. We were going to go see another fireworks display. After talking to my son, he's like, yeah, I just need to see one. We're good. We can just go tomorrow, see the one close by, and we don't have to drive someplace else to see him tonight. I was thinking about doing both personally, but anyways, had a chance to get back into the Ram. Unfortunately, I did not take video because when we got back, a bunch of kids running around the court and everything else, and it was just crazy chaotic, fireworks going all over the place. So I went and I focused on the tie rod end. This is how I ended up getting it off. Took a jack stand, propped up the tie rod end, took my torch, lit it, held it underneath there for a good 15-20 minutes or so, and then I was eventually able to get the tie rod to twist off. Now there's a lock nut that's actually supposed to go first. I wasn't able to get that off right away. Went ahead, put the jack stand up a little closer, a little higher. Again, stuck the torch underneath the nut. Eventually, I was able to get it hot enough after like 20 minutes or so that I was able to spin that sucker off as well. So they're both off. I have everything disassembled now. So hopefully everything is downhill from here, and hopefully I will have the truck back on Tuesday so the doggies can get their cone of shames after they get Bob Barkered. So we need a wheel bearing, which is basically a hub assembly. I got this one. It's called Auto Round. Whole wheel hub assembly. It says high quality on the box, so I'm going to take its high quality. But the way I made my deduction was I went on to Amazon, looked at the reviews. This one actually came with like 4.5 stars. One of the things I do is I typically look at the negative reviews first, like most people, and I look to see how stupid they are. Are they as stupid as I am, or are they smarter than I am? Because if they're as stupid as I am, they probably screwed something up, and I usually deduct if they've screwed something up in the review. Now, one of the big things I look for is fitment. And people will typically, if they have an issue with fitment, they will list the vehicle they were trying to put it on. So if it's the same as my vehicle, I probably don't want to go with that part. Otherwise, it could be some kind of fluke or something like that with the equipment. If I'm reading through the negative reviews and they sit there and say, this connector was bad, and each review is basically, they had the exact same problem, and I can't attribute it to stupidity, then I have to say, okay, with my dumb luck, I'll get the part that's bad. But there was no general theme of fitment issues or anything like that in the negative reviews. So I said, what the heck, we'll give it a whirl. Like I said, I've already done this on the passenger side. It's held up thus far, so it's pretty good. One of the things I thought was kind of weird, when I opened up the package, it came with white gloves. If anybody can understand why it came with these white gloves, I'd like to know. I mean, when I did the passenger side, I brought it in the mechanic, and he put it on. He asked me, what the white gloves are for, and I don't know. They came with it. So I have no idea why it has white gloves with it. Packaged pretty well. Actually, I already took it out of the plastic and undid the cable. This is one of the things you want to look at when you get the new part is, especially if you have ABS, how long this cable is, because that'll tell you roughly where the plug is supposed to be in the vehicle as far as when you unplug it. So this one's got a really long cable, so I knew the plug was way up top, and I don't have to worry about unplugging it from the direct unit. Sometimes there won't be a cable, and you're supposed to direct it right here. This is oily, which is actually kind of good because it won't be rusty. That's probably why it's all nice and shiny. We got some new studs and everything else in this thing. That's pretty easy. And we're going to go ahead and put this in the new hub assembly. I forgot what this is called, the yoke or whatever. We got this little fun plate. But I also did get this cleaned up. Everything's nice and shiny. If you remember what it was before, it was all rusted out. I kind of got in here. What happens is, a lot of times, is the wheel hub assembly will start rubbing inside of here as it loses its bearing. and they get stuck in there. And then with the corrosion and everything else, as well as the fact that it starts rounding out that inside, you can kind of see a little bit, I don't know if you can actually on the camera, there's a little bit of damage on the inside there. That's going to be fine, but that's basically what happened. I got to it early enough that usually if you get to them early enough, when you hear the sound, start hearing the noises, start looking at replacing the wheel hubs. Usually they go in pairs, so if one goes down, then the next one's soon to follow. So you want to get on those suckers as soon as you can, because they're a lot easier to get out when you catch them early, as opposed to wait until the wheel's wobbling all over the place, because then you need a press and that kind of stuff. But we went and cleaned up the inside. All I did was I took a little wire wheel on a drill and cleaned all of that stuff up. We got some good stuff up for that will make sure everything goes back together. So the lower ball joint, which you really can't see, I got rid of the box already. But this is an AC Delco part. The reason why I went with AC Delco was because when I went on originally, this was going to be the only thing I replaced originally. It looked really bad. And then after going through everything, I decided just to do everything, because the wheel bearing was bad anyways. You have to take the upper control arm on, or replace the wheel bearing, that kind of thing, or the hub assembly. So I already had these. I went with AC Delco because it's a brand I trust. I've dealt with a lot of aftermarket AC Delco parts. I've had a lot of GMs. That's the standard GM aftermarket part, and or maybe they're OME. I don't know, but so I got an AC Delco part to put on my Ram. I already had this in the shop, sitting there waiting to go on, so I might as well just go ahead and use it instead of buying a new part. Now, when I went with the tie rods and the upper control arms, I didn't have those purchased already. So what I decided to do was do a little research about what was the best suspension problem or parts. And when I did that, everybody was recommending this particular company, Moog. M-O-O-G. There it is, right side up. Moog. So when I went with the tie rod ends, I went with Moog ones because I found those. I wanted to do that with the hub assemblies, but I couldn't find the Moog brand in the hub assembly for the Ram, which I'm really kind of upset about because those things look sick. They look like they can take a beating. Moog is actually used quite frequently in NASCAR. It's a really good aftermarket brand for suspension parts. And I went with the Moog upper control arm as well, which I think is kind of interesting because the upper control arm, the replacement, is steel, and the original one was cast aluminum. So, whatever. We're going to go with that. I'll just put my trust in Moog. So that's what I did for parts. Now, it's time to get these parts put back together. I'm going to get started with putting the new hub assembly back on the yoke here. And I'm going to use my brand new tool bench. Might as well use it for something for this project. Right here. So, one of the first things to note is on the yoke, there's a little, on this particular vehicle, there's a little notch here. And there's a little notch on this plate here. So, that goes on like that, and then on the wheel hub assembly, the wire for the ABS will go in through this notch. If you don't have all these little guides and stuff like that, and you're wondering how the heck do I do it, simply take the wheel off the other side, look at it from there, and that should help you be able to deduct how to put this thing back together. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my new favorite product, anti-seize, on all of these areas where metal is hitting metal. And I've gone through a lot of this stuff already. And basically I'm going to use this on all the parts. All the pressed in parts are going to get anti-seize. All of the nuts, bolts are going to get anti-seize. Basically anything where metal is hitting metal, for the most part, is going to get anti-seize. And the reason why is because in another 130,000 miles or so or whatever, when this needs to all be done again, hopefully this stuff will be able to come apart a lot easier. So that's why we're using the anti-seize. When you have a lot of this, and I don't know why they did this, whether it was to make the vehicle lighter for better gas mileage or whatever, when you start having a lot of steel on aluminum, the seizing, just the rust and the corrosion just becomes a huge issue. When I put in the hub, come on out of there, we are going to hit the hub as well, where everything, you could be generous with this stuff too. It's okay. Now, I have read a lot of different things about why you shouldn't use this with aluminum on steel and that kind of thing. To be honest with you, I've never had a problem in the past with that. And you do want to try to keep this cleaned up, because eventually you're going to be putting brakes in here, and you don't want the anti-seize all over your brake pads, because, well, then they won't work. We're interrupting this program to give you this special news bulletin. If you like this content, I'm asking that you please like and subscribe to the channel, and maybe leave some nice words of encouragement in the comment section. Thank you. We now return back to our regularly scheduled programming. Alright, there you go. I didn't have the actual torque spec for this, so I used the very good deductive reasoning of tighten it till your pants rip, because you don't want that to come flying off on you on the road. So make sure those bolts are good and tight. You can find a torque spec, use it. Okay, well, now that I have the hub placed on the yoke there, it's time to actually start putting everything back together. Everything's apart right now. It's just a matter of getting all the parts put back together. And I'm going to wait until tomorrow to do that, when I got a little bit better daylight. We're going to come back down here. We're going to get this lower ball joint in. And, of course, we use the good stuff. Pretty good. I'm just going to try to wait this out. In the meantime, I'll collect whatever hardware and tools and parts and stuff that I need. Wait this out so we can jump right back into it as soon as it lets up a little bit. I am going to align the vehicle, basically getting a string and some jack stands. You can find that on YouTube. There's like thousands of videos of it, people doing it on YouTube. You don't need mine to figure that one out. I'm also going to do the camber. There aren't a lot of videos about the camber on there. I probably will go through the instruction on that one. But basically, because we took that upper control arm off, we have to fix the camber alignment on it. So the camber alignment is how straight the wheel is, if it's tipped like this or this. And, you know, mine is a factory 0, and then it gets like, I think, a negative, positive 4 in or out as things wear out, you know, to be permissible and allowable for it to operate properly. So if your back wheels are not square in any way, you're going to throw off the front wheels. All your alignment's going to be off. You're going to wear out tires very quickly. So this whole assumes that the back wheels are square. I'm assuming that my back wheels are squared. I really haven't done a lot of work back there other than put on new shocks. So that being said, that assumes, and this method is good to get you for a little while. I mean, maybe if you got like my Envoy with almost 200,000 miles on it and you can see from point A to point B, you're not too concerned about tire wear, of any weird tire wear, it'll work for you. You know, basically this thing I have until car prices come down or until if the engine blows up, whichever happens first is what I'm looking at with that. But the truck, I probably will, after doing all this, call up a shop, get a professional alignment taken care of. Unless you guys have the racks to do it, it makes sense to pay someone else to do it. So you shouldn't necessarily count on the string method to keep your wheels aligned. Alright, the rain is lifted. We actually got a little bit of sun. Pretty much finished this up before the rain came. Well, not really, but pretty close to it. Started getting this lock nut on the tie rod end. I'm going to slip the tie rod end on. I'm not going to fully put it on yet. That's going to have to come when we do the alignment. Okay, it's alignment time. I got the brakes on, hooked back up the shocks, everything's put back together. It's alignment time. So the first step we're going to do is level out the vehicle, passenger to driver side, left to right, however you'd like to call it. So the step I'm going to do is using a bubble level. Just find a flat part on the front of the vehicle. I got a jack stand on one side and a jack on the other. And we're just going to jack up the vehicle until that bubble is pretty much in the center. Now that we got that, we'll go over to the wheel and we'll adjust the camber. What I'm going to do is I got this little alignment tool here. It has a magnet on the back. Make sure that magnet's clean. And wham, just the mount, sticking it on there. And we can go ahead and adjust the camber. It's got to kind of go in a little bit. All I'm going to do is take a rubber mallet, pound in, because those are just snug. I might have to loosen those top bolts a little bit to get the full on camber. A positive 1 right now. Almost there. The sides lining up a little bit. And I'm looking at the gauge. There's a little bubble here, and this is leveled out, and I'm waiting for it to hit 0. You want to do the camber before you do the toe in, toe out. And one of the things too is you need to make sure that the rotor is flat when you're doing that. So next step is to get the toe in, toe out, and I need to put the wheel on and get some more material to do that. Time for the maiden voyage. And I precariously balanced the camera on the dashboard, so you should be able to feel every single bump that there is. Ooh, forgot I just did brakes. Okay, I didn't actually do brakes, but okay, here we go, first bump. Seems to be pretty good. Alright, so we're going to find a nice straight bumpy road so we can look at the alignment and we'll see how well it rolls. This looks like one. So I'm not hearing all the clanky that I have in the past, which is pretty good. Nice straight road. You can see there's quite a few bumps in here. Not too terribly bad, actually. Wanted to pull to the right passenger side. We'll see what develops, but no fireworks tonight. The only fireworks I got is getting this truck back on the road. So, until next time.